Okay, everyone, we're back to our BudCast. I'm Corey.
And I'm Millie.
There you go. And we are GPS facilitators. And today we're gonna talk about Unit 5, Managing Change. Millie, what do you think of this unit?
I love it, Corey. I got to tell you, this is my favorite. So I wore
Really?
purple to celebrate that. Yep.
That's excellent. And is it because you love change, or is it because you love the tools and the framework that they provide for change?
I think it's because it was the most impactful for me because change is inevitable. It's sometimes scary, but it's a constant. And this unit really gives you
Mm.
sort of a framework and a formula to follow that makes it feel less scary. So I really got a lot out of it, and I really enjoyed the process of sharing it with other people and seeing those light bulbs go off for them as well.
Why do you think people have trouble managing change?
I I don't know. I mean, I think we like to remain in control, and we
Mm.
like to know what to expect. And there's a lot of fear, I think, that can be associated with unknowns that pop up. And people, depending on their life experiences and their confidence level, may have a discomfort with doing things that are unfamiliar to them. So, and sometimes that's managing emotions and what those emotions will be in other people with those changes that are happening. So, I thought a lot about that circle diagram with the sphere of control. And there's the outer circle of the things that you can't control, some of those changes that Corey shared coming from above, or even, around you. And then the things that you can influence and the things that you have a real ability to control in the center of that circle. And I think that's something that I have thought about a lot as I think about these change tools and how to use them.
Tell me about the three change tools.
So one of the things that the unit sort of takes us through is unfreezing people from a certain mindset in order to be open to a change. And the change tools really help to do that in a step-by-step process. So as much as we say you can use them in an a la carte fashion, I think using each one of them to work through builds on itself and makes for a more successful implementation in the end. So the first one is really defining your current state and your desired state. So that's the, correct me if I'm wrong, blueprint for change, right?
Yes.
And that's really something that you should take the time with the person or people that you're talking through this circumstance with to think about where we are now in a very honest, sometimes vulnerable way, so that you can both agree on the current state that you're in. And then thinking about ideally where we want to go. And maybe that's a goal that's in front of us or something we want to improve or achieve. We've also created some adaptations of this. I made a programs problem solving framework using this. So that could be a program challenge that you're facing, where you are now with that challenge and how you want that solution to look. What's the outcome at the end? So once you've made your sort of list of what those two things look like, you can move to your next stage, which is a fancy term, but force field analysis. So that name is a little counterintuitive for me. I don't think I would associate it with what it actually looks to be, but it's essentially just taking an inventory of the things that we have going for us, the resources, the people, the connections, the tools that we can use to get those outcomes achieved, and the barriers that are working against us. So you're making a list with your team or the person you're managing to talk through those components. And I know when we did this exercise together in our sessions, sometimes we sort of got stumped and the list was pretty short, but then really just thinking through, opening your eyes, putting your head up and realizing, are you considering the staff members that we work with? We have 400 plus staff members that can be a tool and a resource. We have resources available on Mission Memo, all these things. We have connections in the community. We have board members. So depending on what the change is you're trying to achieve, really taking that time to dig deep and think about all the things that are at your fingertips. And then doing sort of the same, but conversely, thinking about all the factors that get in our way of achieving it. But the best part I think, of the force field analysis, which sometimes I skip ahead and forget to do, is doing that work of using the things we have going for us to mitigate, our favorite word, the things that are working against us. So do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like, Corey?
So the things going for you, it's kind of easy to identify those things when you really start talking. And then the things that are real barriers, sometimes we have this notion of barriers that aren't real. So you're putting down real against real. And so you can begin to see what things are going to reduce the drag of the barriers. Now, the benefit of this exercise is that, if what you're doing is trying to get turnout to, let's say, leadership conference, maybe your goal is 80, 90%. But if you can reduce 5% here, 5% here of resistance, then you're starting to get to your goal. And that's what makes it so valuable, because you can see that there's not one magic bullet for anything, but there are all these different things that you can do to reduce the real barriers to accomplishing your goal, your desired state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really satisfying to cross those off as you identify. And sometimes you're in that barrier list and you're thinking of a new barrier, and then you're remembering, oh yeah, well, we do have a board member that has a connection there. So you can add as you go and have that conversation be very dynamic.
And then most people, in life, they kind of jump to the action plan, which is the next step. And there really is a benefit to doing the steps beforehand, but you'll notice that the action plan here is much more detailed and much more specific. And the idea is that you're not doing it alone, you're working with the team. And so it's not only what you need to do, who needs to do it, when they need to do it, how they're going to do it, but also listing the resources available, because maybe your team doesn't know all the resources, where they are, who they are. And then finally, how do we know? What is the measure that we know we get there? And that's it helps with the delegation. It's very specific. The more specific you can be, the more likely your team is going to be able to achieve those goals.
Mm-hmm. And I think people really crave that clarity. It might feel like it's similar to those setting SMART goals or the conversations we have during our performance reviews that can sometimes feel hard to have with our friends and colleagues, but giving people clear goals to target is going to do them a favor, because then they can focus their time and energy in that direction. And the things that they're doing that aren't leading them to that direction are maybe not things that they should focus on.
And don't forget one of our GPS practical tools. We do it on a great big sheet of paper, which might feel old school, but it really feels like you're accomplishing stuff when you write it down. You can read all the research about writing stuff down, but it really is a great way to commit yourselves to the process and to the change.
Yeah. I think it's a good activity to do if you're having a team retreat or you're having a small team meeting and you have a new set of goals that you're learning about, or you're implementing a new program, or you have a new event, to really work through this together and let everyone contribute. It harkens back to all those conversations we had about the importance of that buy-in. When people have a voice in these things, they feel more committed to working together on the solution. So where we begin with this change sort of being dumped on us and feeling like, okay, that's impossible. We've worked through what the vision is and why we have that vision. What are the issues we're having now that need to change? And we now have a place to reflect on all the tools at our disposal. And we're mindful of the things that are barriers. Sometimes they're out of our control. There's going to be some remaining factors listed in that force field analysis that you just can't mitigate, but at least you're acknowledging those things. So that can help bring some peace of mind to your team, that you're aware that there are things that are maybe impossible to overcome, but where are the areas that we can make progress and move ourselves closer to where we want to be.
Right. So managers, remember, you're the pilot, not the turbulence. You get to pilot through this. You get to lead through this. You'll probably get a best boss star down the line. I think it's a really great impulse to have, which is gathering your team, small, medium, or large, and really working through some of the changes that are occurring for you day to day, week to week, year to year, whenever.
Yeah. Yeah. And this changed my brain in some way when I learned about this. And it's maybe stuff that is not news to you. You might be familiar with things like this, but for me, it was just a new way to look at a problem and feel less hopeless. I highly recommend the change tools.
Well, if you use these tools, please pop us an email, let us know. Or if you have a challenge, you want us to sort of brainstorm it here, let us know that too.
Sure.
And that's pretty much Unit 5.
Yeah, I highly recommend checking out the wonderful GPS tools and resources that Corey has cultivated. There's some great templates and things that you can utilize with your team, but don't be afraid to get that old-fashioned notepad and just jot things down with people when you have a chance to do that too.
Great
But good
idea.
luck making change in the world.
Okay, well, we will see you next time. Great talking to you, Millie.
You too, Corey.